welcome to Ticker Business. Together with Oz Industry, we want to take your business to the next level. I'm Mike Loder, and each week on Ticker Business, we're showcasing some amazing Aussie businesses that are taking on the world. Now, every business owner knows it takes a lot more than luck. The hard work and determination, together with support from Oz Industries' network to help find the connections to innovate and commercialise that idea into a product or a service. Now, whilst Oz Industry is the presenting sponsor of this program, the opinions and views of all the following segments are our own. So, with that out of the way, to my first guest, and Cameron Van Dungen comes to us from Sleeptite, a company pushing to improve health by providing a good night's sleep. Welcome to you, Cameron. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi Mike, it's great to be with you, mate. Taking businesses to the world, it sounds quite exciting, doesn't it? It's been my life for at least the last 5 years.
Well, maybe you can tell us a bit about that, just jumping into it straight away and going into the history of Sleeptite and how this technology is innovating sleep. And I understand it's a family-driven story.
It is indeed. You've done your research well, Mike. It's been a 10-year journey for me, but it actually extends right back to the 1960s when my grandparents arrived from the Netherlands with my father and his siblings, and they opened up an aged care facility here in Melbourne, where I'm based, in Toorak and South Yarra. And they ran them right through up until about the early 1980s, at which point my father jumped into a little business called 40 Winks. And now here we are in the early 2020s, and I've got a business that combines beds and aged care. So, yeah, it is very much a long-standing family tradition.
So what was the light bulb moment for Sleeptite, and what are some of the things you guys offer your clients?
That light bulb moment happened 10 years ago when I came back at the end of the global financial crisis to work in my father's business at 40 Winks. And I looked at this category and saw that there had been no proper innovation, no disruption, no technological advancements in 120 years. I mean, Pocket Springs were founded in the early 1900s, late 1800s. So, this is a category ripe for disruption. And then there's aged care, a sector I'm very close to and understand, and it's a sector that is very much in need. And the moment I realised if we could start to extract data off the surface of a mattress, we could provide it to a category where they need nighttime monitoring of all residents at all times for their safety.
I love that. Ripe for disruption. Now, Sleeptite is helping improve the health and well-being of older Australians. I understand this technology not only looks after the user, but can also support clinical staff in those settings. Can you take us through how it's able to help them as well?
From the absolute outset, we developed this technology with carers, not for carers, with carers and nurses. We sat down with them from the beginning and said, what are the tools you need to be able to focus on the job you are built to do, and that is care for our loved ones, our elderly. So this tool is, if we're doing our job correctly, residents will never even notice we're there. We're completely passive. We're nearable, not awareable. They don't have to interact with us. But the real user is the carer, who needs to make sure that during the course of a night, when they're really pressed, because there's not as many of them through the course of the night as there are through the day, and as a result, if their attention gets turned to intervening with one resident and another resident falls out of bed or just isn't able to get back into bed over an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, our system is able to provide them monitoring and alerts to let them know there might be areas for concern outside of the area they're currently working in.
Fantastic. So can you take us through some of the designs and technology that goes into producing this nearable, I believe you referred to it as nearable technology, and the Sleeptite REMI system?
Yeah, so it's actually been a very challenging project, and Oz Industry, through the Cooperative Research Centres project, which is a grant we received back in 2018, it allowed us to do the heavy lifting of the work that was required to get to the point we're at right now. You're talking about highly flexible, highly stretchable, printable sensors, electronics, and this doesn't have a production line anywhere in the world. I can't just roll into China or Malaysia or Taiwan and ask for someone to manufacture this for me. We had to build the process from the ground up. That included manufacturing techniques. It included sensor designs, material learning lessons, data extraction. It was a from the ground up build, but we've gotten to a point where we've got world first platform technology where, and I hate to sound so cliche, but the sky is the limit of where this could go when it comes to data extraction off the surface of a mattress through the course of a night.
So it's great to hear that Oz Industry was able to help you guys take it from ideas into prototype and then commercialization. So continuing from that, You've got a partner as well who played a big part in the success of the research and development phases, both RMIT and the manufacturer Sleeptite, I understand. Take us through a bit about that partnership.
Well, that's one of the best parts about the Cooperative Research Centre project. It actually brings research entities together. RMIT, they had a breakthrough in the lab, which was the ability to print sensors onto highly flexible materials. This project didn't exist without RMIT University's breakthrough. Professor Madhu Bhaskaran, who's one of the co-leads over there, phenomenal. I call her a rock star of research. She really is. But taking that and then actually being able to create that manufacturing process I talked about earlier would not have been possible without Sleep Easy Bedding Australia. They come from a background of manufacturing beds and mattresses in Australia, so they understand what's required to be able to manufacture at scale. So having researchers in the room with finished product manufacturers, as well as my own development team, software engineers and my innovators that are in-house at Sleeptite, it truly was a collaboration, and it would not have existed without any one of the three key partners and without that financial support that the federal government put in, because it really needed that extra kick just to get it over the line and get going. And that's why this CRCP program is just incredible.
Now, Cameron, can you give us a little bit of insight just to finish up about how you're advocating for local production and manufacturing as well?
It's actually been one of the biggest focuses I've had to get to this point where we've got a technology readiness level of a 6, which is fantastic. We took it from a 2 to a 6 through the CRCP. The next phase is to get it ready to commercialise, which is a TRL 9 essentially. That little valley that we're trying to get through, we can either do it offshore, which worries me and is the one thing keeping me up at night, because I'm sending over, drying techniques, ink compositions, material testing, and I'm sending it off to labs around the world. If I can do that here, we can hold on to all of that knowledge, all of that IP. And if we're doing that right now here in Australia, why not fully automate the manufacturing process? I mean, we've built it from the ground up. We've delivered world-first techniques. And the idea of onshoring this process really gives us an incredible opportunity for export.
Cameron, thank you so much for your time today and running us through the ins and outs of what Sleeptite is offering. Exciting developments for you and the rest of the team. Thanks again. To my next guest now, and Dr. Nick Engera is shining a light on renewable energy with his company Solcast. Now, very much in a league of its own, the company is revolutionising weather forecasting for the renewable energy sector, and he joins me live now. Hello.
Mike, great to be here.
Thank you for your time today. So let's start off with, I love the background. What is Solcast looking to do in this sector, and what do you guys offer? Tell us everything.
We are a solar forecasting company, and what that means is we are watching the clouds from space using weather satellites. All around the world, we stitch together images from 5 of them to have a global image of all the world's cloud cover, and then we watch and predict where it will go next, from the next few minutes, the next few hours, through the next few days. That's solar forecasting. That's the core of what Solcast does.
Now, are you out there collecting data at the moment?
Yeah, we are. We have satellites that we use. They're publicly available data sets, but there's a lot of smarts that goes into taking those pictures and turning it into information about clouds, particularly how high they are in the atmosphere, how thick they are to sunlight. And so we're pulling images and turning out some data using some pretty sophisticated algorithms to estimate solar energy availability, solar power output, and that goes through all the steps of modeling solar radiation. Very impressive and sexy, I know. It's what I did my PhD on. Exciting stuff.
It's pretty cool stuff, I gotta say. Now, what brought you into this area of operation? I understand you once contemplated life as a TV weather person. Can you take us through the beginnings?
Look, I've always loved the weather, and being a weatherman was something that I looked up to when I was younger. But ultimately, I had the research bug me. I got very interested in trying to solve tough problems, and that happens outside the weather studio. So what eventually happened for me, long story short, is I came out to Australia to do my PhD at the Australian National University, and really fell in love with trying to take science and apply it to real-world problems. And ultimately started to commercialize the technology that I developed in my PhD before I met my co-founder, James, and found that that what we'd both been working on was the perfect match to launch Soulcast back in 2016. And so here we are now with a global network of data that we provide to customers around the world, and it's been a really fun journey.
So what was the opportunity that you and James both saw, the niche in the space that really pushed you both to ride this wave and to gather and produce solar radiation data to enable networks to better predict their output? It sounds really dense.
Yeah, it's a really interesting challenge. So what we saw happening really was a new generation of weather satellites was coming online that started to give us pictures every 5 to 10 minutes instead of every half hour to an hour, and seeing that information at much higher resolution. And this ultimately was a big data problem that we knew other companies weren't ready to tackle. We started off working with that high resolution weather satellite data. And so we built our algorithms from the ground up to be able to handle large amounts of data on the fly, working with Amazon Web Services and some modern database solutions in order to really take the technology advancements that have happened over the last 5 to 10 years in cloud computing and apply it to those big data sets. And in doing so, do that very, very quickly. We crunch 600 million forecasts every hour around the world, and then make it really easy for our users to access that data. You can't just make great data. You got to get it out there so that folks can integrate it with their solutions, and we can all be a part of deploying the solar future.
Oh, I like that. Deploying the solar future. Now, who are some of the clients that have got on board and have found benefit from working with Soulcast and working towards this solar future?
Yeah, it's really become quite a list of global clientele. So we work with a number of entities here in Australia, but looking overseas, we work with Taipower in Taiwan. We've got Duke Energy from the United States on board. We work with a big solar management company called Medio Control in Germany. And here in Australia, we have a partnership with WeatherZone, a commercial weather forecasting company that has put us in a really dominant position, providing solar forecasts for over 30 solar farms and several of the utilities here in Australia as well.
Okay, so how do you do it? It seems like you'd need a large group of meteorologists, data experts, not to mention engineers to service the technical side of things. Can you take us through the daily operations and how you manage it all over at Soulcast?
It's really actually quite exciting because one of my favorite parts about being a founder and being CTO has been building our team. We have some incredible people that work with us that have been able to engage with these big data problems I was telling you about before. And we break it down into 3 primary teams. We have a modeling team who are working on the algorithms, pulling in the weather data you were talking about before. Many of them are atmospheric scientists, some of them are data scientists, and they are really crunching out the hard problems and creating the algorithms that provide the solutions. Then we got a team of software developers that operationalize things, make sure they stand up for our customers, but also work really hard on a back-end tool that we have called the Soulcast API Toolkit, where we're teaching people how to access our data and integrate it with their software. And that user journey, developing that out, has been a real joy and pleasure in my experience. And we've had to have a quality software team to do that. And then we've got our executive and sales team, which is focused on capturing the global opportunity, which is a big one.
All right, and now how did Oz Industries, how were they able to help you out and get to the point that where you guys are today?
It's been really, really great to work with the Accelerating Commercialization Program. We're in the second stage of a big project that's running over a total of 4 years. And what is happening with that is actually a little bit different than solar energy. What we discovered was an adjacent opportunity. We're tracking the world's cloud cover. We're modeling cloud cover conditions. But clouds don't just block the sunshine. They do many other things. And very importantly, and most notably, they have precipitation, rainfall, snow, hail, storms, you name it. And we worked with Accelerating Commercialization to take a prototype we'd built to basically use our cloud imagery data to estimate how much rainfall was coming out of those clouds. And we were able to show proof of concept of that, scale it up through this program, and now start to apply it to temperature and wind speed as well. And in fact, we now have that technology for precipitation operational around the world. And AC, Accelerating Commercialization, was a big part of that. And one of the most advantageous things about it is being able to see rainfall where there's not weather radar coverage. So when you look on the TV and you see that weatherman we were talking about earlier pointing at the green screen and saying, hey, here's where the rain is, that's coming from a weather radar. But those things are expensive and we don't have them everywhere. So we're engaging with the problem of saying, hey, we know how much rainfall is in these locations, even if we can't see it with a traditional weather radar.
Dr. Nick Ingera, thank you so much for coming on the program today and giving us some insight into what Soulcast is up to. Exciting times ahead, I'm sure. Thanks again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Easy done. Well, I hope you've learned a lot from today's episode. If you'd like to find out how Oz Industry can take your business to the next level, visit business.gov.au/Oz Industry or call 13 28 46. Thank you so much for your time. I will see you again soon.